This podcast was recorded on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation.
Guys, welcome back. Mad About You. We are back in action, and I don't know, I'm sure many of you picked up that Jad and I in the last couple of weeks hadn't really been discussing our new little child very much because we did pre-record some episodes, but we're back in studio now.
We're back.
We've had little Fletch, and we decided to take a couple of hours off and leave.
Couple of hours?
Yeah.
It was just 2 hours. We took 2 hours off.
That's the definition of a couple, too. What?
Hours?
Yeah, I said hours.
Am I missing something here? We took 2 hours off.
Yeah, we're taking a few hours off to record the pod.
Oh, I thought you meant
you?
off from the podcast. From the time that Fletcher was born to now, it's been 2 hours. I was like, what is going on?
Baby brain obviously lingering with you.
Whoopsie.
But yeah, we're leaving Fletch at home for the first time. We've stepped out, just the two of us. And I did actually want to ask Jad this on the way here, but I stopped myself from doing it. And I wanted to say, how did it make you feel to leave the little man at home?
I'm not even anxious. A little bit.
Yeah, you seemed a little stressed as we were leaving.
It's weird. You've had this baby attached to you essentially for the past 6 weeks, and that's all you know, and then all of a sudden you just don't have it.
Yeah. So you're not even a little bit enjoying your free
I will
time?
say there's this nice kind of, I don't know, like this. It's weird. You're anxious, but also a bit stress-free at the same time because you don't have to go and check on the baby if he's crying or make sure that this is happening or get that ready or put, you know what I mean? Like settle him. It's like, oh, I can just actually kind of breathe a little bit but still worry about him and if he's okay at the same time. So
you also left him with a person I'd say you trust quite dearly.
Exactly.
So.
Obviously. He's not sitting at home by himself.
Yeah, we didn't hire a sitter just yet. We thought 6 weeks was a bit early. We might wait till like 8-10 weeks for that. But yeah, Jad's mum's looking after Fletch for the first time. And,
yes.
Yeah, it is a bit weird to leave him and not be there with him and for him, but she's in heaven. Like she was so excited to be called up for this gig, and so yeah, we're excited to give it to her as well. This little opportunity. So.
We've let her know that he needs to sleep, and she's informed us that she's going to have so much fun with him. So
what do you reckon she'll do with him?
Not sleep. She actually said hide and seek at one point, and I really hope she was joking because I'm just imagining her running around trying to find somewhere to hide and thinking that he's going to seek her.
Yeah, it'll be a bit of a rubbish game. But yeah, our first time away from the little man, and I must say, as weird as it is, it's nice to have to be back in studio and doing something a little bit adult and normal and make you feel like you're, back in your life that you had before the bub, because for the last 6 weeks it does become a little bit of Groundhog Day. You do feel like you're just keeping this guy alive and keeping afloat, and you're running on fumes and exhaustion. And so it's nice to see Jad fresh faced and looking good, and she's smiling a lot.
Well, I haven't been looking good this whole time.
No, you've been looking great, but you just look really good now. It might be the lighting or something. We don't have this sort of lighting in our
good to know.
In our bedroom.
No, we don't. That's for sure. It's mainly pitch black whilst we're trying to get Fletch to go to sleep, actually.
Yeah, which he's not really doing a whole lot of. But
it's actually nice to talk to you outside of just, can you pass me this? Can you hold Fletch? Can you please change the nappy? Just our conversation day to day has become very much just let's do baby stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not often that we're now sitting face to face and having a proper conversation together.
For more than 3 minutes. That is right. But today we are going to get into our birth story, which is, I didn't even know that was a thing as a dude before having a baby, but supposedly chicks live for it.
People love hearing birth stories.
People love birth stories, and that's just literally, we're just going to run you through what happened from the moment Jad's pretty much her water broke. So let's get into it.
So my waters broke spontaneously, which I thought only happened in movies. They kind of tell you that it can happen, but it's very rare. So I was one of the rare few who experienced that. And
is it actually really that rare?
It's not super common, no, that's the start of the labour.
I thought that was like a prerequisite for the thing coming out.
No. Half the time your waters don't break until you're actually giving birth to the baby.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was lying in bed. It was on the 12th, I believe, of June, and we were Locke was asleep. I was in bed, and I got up to go to the bathroom. And when I went to the bathroom, I wasn't quite sure if I had finished. This is, sorry for the TMI. This is going to be TMI, the whole thing. But I thought I'd finished weeing, and then there might have been a bit more liquid that came out, and I really wasn't quite sure whether I'd actually just kept weeing or not. I know you should know whether or not you've stopped weeing, but at this point your body's doing things you have no idea what's going on. So
I just heard the word weeing so many times.
So basically, I got off the toilet and I was like, that was strange. I wonder whether or not that was, my water breaking. So I went back to bed and I was kind of thinking about it, and I was tossing and turning a little bit for about 10 minutes, and then my waters broke entirely. That time it was way more obvious. There was so much liquid that just started pouring out of me, essentially. I shot up out of bed and I knocked over the laundry basket to try to get the liquid to catch on something other than the carpet. And Locke's woken up and I've gone, Locke, my water's just broke. And he's gone, oh, okay, do you need, what do I do? I'm like, oh, get a towel. So I've knocked over the laundry basket, and Locke's sitting in bed and he's just looking at me. And I'm waiting for him to go get this towel, standing there with all this liquid pouring out of me. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, what? I thought you found something, and I was like, no, I'm waiting for you to go get a towel.
We'd already gone all over the laundry, so it was dirty laundry, mind you, so it was going to get washed anyway. So why do I need to dirty a fresh towel?
So I'm waiting for this towel, and he's just staring at me. I'm like, we're not off to a very useful start here. Anyway, so we sorted that situation out, cleaned myself up, and I called the midwife. So for those of you who don't know, I've been a part of the midwife group practice, which is through the public system, and that was at Royal North Shore Hospital. So I called my midwife, and I think I caught her. Yeah, I did. Sometimes the phone diverts if she's not on. And I let her know my waters broke, and she said, okay, no worries. Keep an eye on things. If you start contracting, great. Just start timing them, basically. And if things progress, and your contractions are closer together, give me another call. But they actually encourage you to stay home in early labour, because basically it can last a very long time, and there's no real point going to the hospital unless you're actually about to give birth, essentially. Not about to, but closer to. We stayed home. My contractions started probably 20 minutes after my waters broke, and they were pretty regular in the beginning and had gotten a bit painful as well. I remember them feeling quite intense pretty quickly. So I was timing them, and they were, I think, maybe 8 minutes apart, then 6 minutes, then it was 12 minutes, and then it was 8, and then it kind of got to 20, and then it was 12, and then 30 minutes. So it actually got further and further apart, basically, as the morning went on. And sorry, I forgot to mention, the midwife said, we'll have you come in around 11 a.m. in the morning to just make sure things are all right, check on you, blah, blah, blah. So I'm watching my contractions, and by the time we went in, so we didn't sleep that night, basically. I'm contracting off and on. Didn't get much sleep at all. Went into hospital at 11 a.m. the next day. So because your waters break spontaneously, there are risks involved with that if you're not essentially in active labour immediately, including things like infection. So they kind of just want to make sure everything's all right, check baby's heart rate, check that you're all right. So we did our checks and everything was fine. And she said, just go home, keep trying to kind of induce your contractions, do the things that, feel good.
At this stage, I'll just jump in. I'm pretty sure your contractions had essentially stopped.
Pretty much, yes.
So yeah, water's broken.
Slowed
you were contracting
to the point
regularly,
where
and
it had
then,
stopped.
Yeah, almost stopped by 12 hours later.
So midwife suggested a few things. We went and, bought dates from the shops, and I had a bath when I got home, and did various things to try to kind of reinduce the contractions. And it worked. So in the evening, my contractions started coming on again, and they were getting pretty intense as time went on, to the point where I ended up having to pull out my TENS machine. So for those of you who don't know, it's essentially
electrostimulation.
Yes. So it sends shockwaves to wherever you've placed the pads. In this case, it's on your back. And you can amp it up the electric current that's essentially running through your back during the contractions, and there's a boost button for when you are contracting so that it's more intense. So I've got that on, and I'm in, quite a bit of pain, and again, I'm contracting through the night. So we're now on 2 nights of pretty much no sleep.
We actually got into bed at like 10 o'clock. And we're like, we'll have an early night tonight because, you never know what's going to happen. And then at 10:30, Jad sort of jumped out of bed again. She was like, I can't even lie down. Like, it's starting again.
Yeah.
And then she was literally pacing the room for, I think it was about 3 hours. So it got to about 2 a.m. and they were getting really close together, and she was, to the point they say when you can no longer speak through your contractions. And, if I made a joke or, if you can't have a laugh while you're having a contraction, like, you might want to think about making your way to the hospital. So it got to about 2:30, and that's when Jad made the call to the midwife again.
I don't know if you remember, I threw up. So I was in so much pain that I'd gone to the bathroom and thrown up. And then I called the midwife because I was like, okay, I'm in a lot of pain now. Like, I think I'm ready to go into hospital. I don't really want to be at home anymore. It feels a bit too intense. So we called the midwife. She said, yep, come on in. I'll meet you there. And so we had everything packed, ready to go, basically got in the car and went off to the hospital.
Let me just tell you something about the car trip there, which, I don't know, makes me giggle. But so throughout Jad's whole pregnancy, they tell you, come up with a birth plan, have these ideas about how you want it to be and what you want to do.
No, they don't say come up with a birth plan.
But have an idea of the notion of how you want things to go and what you're going to advocate, for yourself in the moment when you're stressed and dealing with doctors and nurses and they're asking you questions and yada yada. And Jad the whole time was kind of like, you know what, I got this. Like, I've got a pretty good pain threshold. I'm just going to breathe through it. I'm just going to breathe. I'm going to practice mindfulness, and I'm just going to get through it, and I'm going to be fine. And I was like, that's so amazing. Like, I'm so proud of you if that's how it goes. And up until the day before, she's like, I'm ready, and she was so in her own head, and it was fantastic. And then we were in the car on the way to the hospital. We hadn't even got there yet, and she was like, I reckon I'll have the epidural. Yeah, I reckon sign me up for the epidural. And I was like, we're not even at hospital yet. You haven't even tried anything else. We're like...
Locke failed to mention I was trying to have a natural birth. That was the goal. It was, I'll try to make it, through to the baby arriving without having had, any sort of medical intervention. So the goal... Which
I think is an odd, I don't know why, but I think, we've spoken to a few women about this, and there seems to be like this odd stigma around women not wanting any medical intervention, to the point where perhaps, I don't know, like they feel like it's cheating or it's frowned upon or looked down upon. I don't know what it is.
I don't think it's a stigma. I think that it's just you want to conquer it naturally. I mean, if you think about it, it's what our bodies are literally designed to do. So you think...
Some people don't care and just want to,
Yeah, no,
get it
of
out
course.
straight away.
But for those people who you're speaking about, I think, and myself included, I thought, how amazing and cool would it be if I could just like push through and like nail it and do it without, needing pain relief or, an epidural. And also the thought of an epidural can be quite daunting, which it was for me as well. And there's risks involved with medical intervention. So I think that's why,
Sure.
For me at least, I wanted to try to do it as naturally as possible, but I was always open-minded. I said to myself, if I need help, I'm gonna ask for it. I'm not gonna be too proud to say give me an epidural. And obviously on the way to the hospital I was already in enough pain to go, you know what,
Jad almost made me call the doctor and say get the epidural ready.
Get it ready.
Like, have it ready for when I rock up.
We've headed to the hospital and you go straight to the birthing suite. So we went upstairs and you're shown to your room. The room's really, really lovely.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's like a suite.
It's a really lovely big suite. There's a space for Locke to lay down even. There's a bed, obviously. There's a bath and a shower. There's a nice platform to lean on while you're standing, because when you're contracting, you don't want to really be sitting or laying down. I didn't anyway. I wanted to be moving around. They've got exercise balls, everything you need, basically. So we got in there. I'm having my contractions. I've got my TENS machine on, and this is where things start getting a bit blurry. So when people tell you that you forget your labor and you forget your birth. Like, they're really not joking. I've got so many blank spots from like labor and giving birth that Locke has to fill in a lot of it. But I do remember getting there, kind of setting our stuff down and then just roughing it out with the contractions with my TENS machine for what was it, a couple of hours?
Maybe like 90 minutes. Can I just add something first?
I think it was longer than 90 minutes.
But imagine saying you're blanking on stuff and then asking me, I answer, and then you go, no. What's the point of asking me then?
Because even when I don't remember things, I'm right.
Yeah, amen. But let me just say something that I think is just a little bit, special and amazing about our public health, system is that Jad literally called the midwives, and this call comes through at 2:30 in the morning, and they pick up, and our midwife drives to the hospital, like a 40-minute drive to the hospital, and they're there for you. And she stayed with us for the duration of the birth, which was quite a long time, which, I'm sure you'll hear about. But it just makes you think, and you're reminded of how amazing these people are that work in healthcare, that dedicate their lives. At 3 a.m, imagine you get a call and you have to jump into work, to be there for, someone. It's very amazing and special. And yeah, Jad and I just had a great experience with the public health system and the group midwife practice at Royal North Shore, and so we couldn't rave about it enough.
They're real life angels, basically.
Yeah, honestly.
That's how I describe them. But we all the midwives we met were absolutely lovely and so helpful and above and beyond. I think that's the way to describe it. Is they obviously care about what they do and make you feel like you're in really good hands. And we absolutely were. So where are we? So we're in the birthing suite.
90 minutes, Jad's had her TENS machine on.
2 hours.
And then, and she starts going like, oh, okay, the pain's getting worse, and the TENS is not as useful as it was
The
at the
TENS
start.
is not tensing. So basically it got to a point where
memory's coming back, guys.
No, I remember this. It started shocking my stomach, which I know is not supposed to happen. So when you turn up the electric current, if you've not placed the pads correctly, it can kind of bleed, if that makes sense. Like the electric current bleeds through to other areas. So that's what was happening. I felt it in my tummy and I was like, that shouldn't be happening. There's a baby in there. So I didn't feel right, like kind of amping it up further from there, and it was making me feel anxious. So we kind of needed to explore other pain relief options. And at that point, I had already spoken to the midwife about the epidural. I think as soon as we walked through the door, I was like, I'm going to have the epidural at some point. I'm just letting you know. Unless I'm really dilated when you check, I will be having the epidural. But I think at this point we decided to check how dilated I was, right? Because I was in a lot of pain and I was like, I need to know how far along I am, because if I'm getting to the, if I'm close to giving birth, great, amazing, I'll stick it out probably. If I'm not, I'm definitely going to explore pain relief options soon. So we did the dilation check. What's it called? I'm totally blanking. Do you remember?
Cervical check.
Yeah. So they basically do it with their fingers. And I didn't know this. It can be quite painful. And for me, it was extremely painful. To the point where I'll say it was probably the most painful thing I experienced throughout my entire labour, including pushing the baby out. So it was really painful. And I don't want to scare anyone who's having a baby soon, but probably if I was to change anything, there's not much I would change, but I would perhaps put that off because it didn't need to happen when it did. I probably could have waited a bit longer. And when that happened, it kind of maybe shifted the way that things were going for me. So because I was then in significantly more pain, I had a kind of, I guess, a lower tolerance to continue doing what I was doing. So I had the check, made me feel I was in a lot of pain from that, had a really severe contraction right afterwards, and then I was throwing up again from the pain. So I'd gone to the bathroom and I was throwing up. And that kind of made me want to tap out a little bit. So I wasn't feeling great at that point. And I was talking about the epidural, and I had already floated the idea of getting in the bath as well. So our midwife said, look, why don't we just hop in the bath? We'll see where the what's the name of the
anaesthetist.
And I can never say
Sorry,
this.
you don't need to say it. I just said it.
Thank you.
Just say what Lachie said.
We'll see where he is to administer the epidural. Is that who does it?
Yeah, but this is like your drug brain's coming in now, because I was letting you tell that story, but it's not actually what happened at all. So after the TENS machine, this did happen. The timeline's just a little bit off. So after the TENS machine, before you had any cervical checks or anything, Eugenie was like, "Hey, why don't we jump in the bath? Because, like, I know you've been wanting to try that."
Bath was after, honey.
Okay. Yeah. All right. No
Bath
worries.
was after I'm 100% sure.
Okay. So, let's
I
just
still
pretend
had
like,
my clothes on.
Sure. We'll pretend like that's true.
Okay.
And we'll go.
That
so
did happen,
after
by the way.
Jad gets in the bath, they tried some gas.
So okay. Now you're fast tracking. So I've done the cervical check. No, you're not super dilated. And she's told me, which you've skipped over, she said you're about 3 to 4 centimeters. And that's when I went, okay, she's being generous. I'm definitely 3. Like, she's trying to make me feel good about the fact that I'm in a lot of pain. And I've thought, okay, I'm not going to make it to 10 at this rate. So we need to explore other options. And that's when she suggested hopping in the bath, because she knew that I wanted to do that. And I was really weary about pulling the TENS machine off, because it was kind of saving me at that point. And I was really scared to kind of take it off and hop in the bath. I thought getting in the bath would make it feel a lot worse. However, I decided to give it a go anyway, because, I wasn't going to get the epidural in the next 10 minutes, and I needed some other avenue to try to kind of navigate the pain. So I've taken the TENS machine off, and I've gotten into the bath. And the thing that I should mention also is that they've given me gas and air. So you're in the bath, which feels really nice when you get in, and you're given gas and air, or I was. And one thing that no one really explained to me before I tried the gas and air, in the lead up to my labor, like no point throughout my pregnancy, was that the gas and air makes you really high. Like
what do you think it did?
You're totally smacked out. Like your consciousness just fades. It's like you've gone and had a joint or something. Like you're really not, you're not all there at all. So I'm having the gas and air, and I'm in the bath, and I'm like, this is really weird. Like, what's going on? And the pain just like melted away, like immediately. It was so strange. And I really didn't expect that to happen once I took the TENS machine off. So that was like a really nice kind of surprise, I guess. However, the gas and air made me really anxious at the same time.
And sick.
Yes. And more sick. So I'd already thrown up a few times, and now I'm in a bath bag the whole time pretty much.
You're also, once you start administering the nitrous oxide, you no longer are yourself. So
No.
as in you can't conversate, you can't advocate for yourself, you can't even say how you're feeling. Like, as in, Jad was just zooted. So as in, she became like this little zombie,
Space
and
cadet.
she just was looking at the ceiling
In the bath.
and looking around in slow motion. And like, I'd ask her a question, she wouldn't respond. She'd occasionally lean her head out of the bath and vomit, and then just chuck the gas back on. Like, you lose her, or
Yeah.
lose your person, whoever's attached to her.
Yeah, it was really weird. And that's not what I was expecting at all. I thought maybe it would kind of ease the pain, but I'd kind of have consciousness, you know what I mean? So that was a really weird experience for me. And to the point where, yes, it was helping with the pain, but I didn't like the other things that it was making me feel. I felt like I was out of control a little bit, and it made me really anxious. I remember sitting there at one point, and I have this memory of looking at Locke and looking at the midwife, Eugenie, and thinking that they were both like staring at me with this intense judgment. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, they were looking at me like I was a complete fool or something. And that really wigged me out. And then Locke also points out that at one point I looked at him and said that I felt like I was in a PlayStation game.
You just stood up, you shot out of the bath, and you just like slow motion like a clown at like a circus, like moving his head. You just went, I feel like I'm in a PlayStation game. And then just like sat back down in the water. And I was like, oh man, this chick has lost it.
It was so weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, so at some point I think I also just shot up out of the bath and just started trying to get out. Is that correct?
When you were ready to get out, you didn't even say anything. You just stood up and got out.
Started climbing out of the bath. I decided I was very much done with it. And then this is where it's really blurry. These parts I don't really remember. I remember kind of climbing out and sitting on a chair with a towel wrapped around me, but I don't remember speaking really, or how the epidural came to fruition.
Yeah, so then Jad sort of jumps out of the bath, and she's sitting on a chair, and she just goes, I don't want to be in the bath anymore. And she's still sucking down the gas like, life's about to end. And she goes, I need the epidural. And so our midwife goes, okay, I'll get the doctor to start, because I think there's a fair bit of paperwork and liability around epidural. So it's not like you can just knock on the doctor's door and they come in straight away and like stick it in you and you're all good. So they sort of have to let them know, they have to prepare it, they have to prepare paperwork and all these things. And so Jad sat on that chair for maybe 45 minutes and just sucked on the gas and, the occasional vomit, and was still out of it. And, but she was not in as much pain as she was before. So that was nice. And then comes the time where the anaesthetist comes in and, says, look, it's time. You sit on the edge of your bed and they go, look, I know it's hard and I know you're contracting and you're in severe pain, but you're going to need to stay really still while we administer this monstrous needle into your spine. And so it can, pretty much shut off your nervous system from your, stomach down your legs. And so, knowing how much pain your partner's in and them going, yeah, you're going to need to sit still. I was like, oh, good luck with that one, guys.
I don't know how I would have done that.
But I'm pretty
also
sure
with the gas.
I'm pretty sure you're still allowed to sip on the gas while you're doing it. But that being said, you were still a bit like jiggly and moving around, and
I
they're
actually
a bit apprehensive about.
I remember being
it.
slumped over on the bed and the doctor saying, "You've got to sit with your back hunched a bit," and I was kind of already there, and he was like, "Actually, that's really good what you're doing right now," and I was like, "Yeah, okay, sweet as." I remember that and having the gas in my hand still.
So you were born ready to have the epidural.
Yeah. Perfect posture for epidural.
And so they administer this and they say, look, if you need a little top up or you start feeling things, here's this button, you press it and it kind of gives you a little bit of extra juice.
Can I ask, was I chatty at this stage? Was I saying much?
Yeah, you're like, what are we going to do for dinner tomorrow?
No, I'm wondering, between the bath, getting out of the bath and getting the epidural.
You haven't spoken for 3 hours.
Have I said anything to you?
No, you haven't talked.
Okay.
You're not conversating at all.
I don't remember any of this part. It's
You're
so
zooted.
weird.
You're
yeah.
like a space cadet.
I think the gas really zaps your memory a bit as well. Anyway.
Yeah, as you said, you're quite high.
I don't remember the epidural going in. I just remember having it. All of a sudden, I'm in the bed and I'm dry. And I'm not in pain anymore.
Yeah, so they administer the epidural and they say, look, it's going to take about 10, 20 minutes to sort of kick in. They said by the time it does, like, you're not going to feel a whole lot. Some people lose, like, almost the ability to move their legs and stuff as well. So, they say, oh, we'll test going to the bathroom and see if your legs still work, which Jad's could for a little bit.
My legs did work, yes, which was great. But I couldn't feel anything. So they tell me that I was contracting by looking at a machine, because I had to put a monitor on me and bub to make sure everything was all good. And I just need to tell you guys, I've become a real advocate for epidurals, especially being someone who in the beginning was like, yeah, I'm going El Natural, I'm going to breathe through labour. Yeah, no. I don't know how people breathe through labour. Like, I'm so impressed. Locke's mum, for example, 5 kids, no epidural. Don't know how she did it. I really don't understand how these people do it. Anyway, I love the epidural. It was incredible, and I totally get it now. I get why people rave on about it. But you just don't feel anything. The pain's gone entirely. It's like magical. And you've gone from, it's now the morning. What time is it? Like 8 a.m.?
So Jad had the epidural administered at 7 a.m., to which they administer it and they go, look, just lie down, relax. And at this stage, what they're trying to do is just let you like progress in labor. So let you dilate more whilst you're just sitting there and relaxing. So you don't have to worry about the contractions. It's just going to happen and you're not going to have a say about it. So she lay in bed for, I think it was about 5 hours. So it was about 7 till midday.
They also administered oxytocin. So it's synthetic oxytocin, and that's to help me continue contracting, because when you have the epidural, your body relaxes. Sometimes it relaxes too much. So they want your body to keep kind of working to continue dilating and contracting in the background sort of thing. But yeah, I'm lying there and I felt incredible. And, we've gone now 2 nights with no sleep essentially. So we're both really exhausted and we go, you know what? This is a good time for a nap. So we've both had a little cheeky nap, including the midwife who said, that I'm going to go find, I think there's a room that they can use in the hospital. So we all collectively had a nap. 2 other midwives tapped in. Shout out to Emily and Gabby. They were incredible as well, and just the loveliest human beings. So was really happy to have them. Eugenie we'd known throughout the entirety of my pregnancy, so we got to know her really well. And there's a bit of an anxiety around having people, I think, before I was in labour, I was anxious, about having people in the room who I didn't know taking care of me during something that was so intense. But they just came in and made me feel really comfortable, really lovely. Obviously, they're going to be like that, but, it's just reassuring people out there who might have had the same kind of feelings. The midwives, they're all incredible, so they're taking care of you really well. But, so they came in, we all had a bit of a sleep, and I think I was just dozing in and out for, 5 hours?
Yeah, 5 hours.
I'd thrown up a little bit more, so I was now on a drip as well to...
Oh, yeah, she hasn't eaten now for, 15 hours. So from dinner the night before, it's now, midday the next day. So she hasn't eaten. She hasn't really been drinking fluid. She's been vomiting everything up.
Yes,
so
I've
they
thrown
put her on
up
a
heaps.
drip. And then when she woke up, she actually said, hey, I'm starting to feel my contractions again. So the epidural doesn't seem to be working as it was or should. And they said this can happen. And then they sort of checked it and they said, look, we're really sorry, but we're actually going to need to take it out and put it back into a little slightly different area, because she was feeling things on one side of her body and not the other. So they said, look, we're going to have to take it out a little bit and then sort of rejig it so you're back to normal. So, then the anaesthetist has to come back in and sort of do the whole process all over again, which is, a tricky thing. But I think at that stage you're in far less pain, so a bit more manageable.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't feeling it much. It was just enough to know that if I was then going to have to push, I was worried about where I would be if it continued kind of dissipating a bit. So we had that fixed up, and at that point it's now stronger, so I can't move my legs the way that I could anymore. I still can move them, but I can't put weight on them. So now they've had to put the catheter in so that obviously I didn't need to go to the bathroom anymore. So now you're bedbound, basically. What time was this, though? Do you have any idea what time this was?
Yeah, this was like 1 p.m. and then they did another check on you. So they said, look, it's been a long time since your last cervical check, since like 6 a.m. or something. Like it's been, 7-8 hours. Like we sort of need to do another one to see how you're progressing.
Yeah.
And you were like, the first one was really heinous for me. But I
can't feel anything
I want this
now,
to continue,
so
and I can't feel anything. So I assume it's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
So you said, yeah, let's do it. And then they did another cervical check on you.
Couldn't feel that one. That was all good.
They came up a bit surprised. They were like, oh my gosh, like you're actually fully dilated and you're ready to rock and roll. And so at that stage, they sort of say to you, like, look, you're ready to go, but there's a little process that they allow the baby, they call it, to naturally drop into the birth canal. And so they just say, look, just put your head back and relax for another hour, and the baby's going to slowly start dropping, and then we're going to come back in an hour. They actually said we're going to wake up your midwife from her sleep, and we're going to get her back in here so she's ready to rock and roll. And then that hour passed, and our midwife came back in the room and said, let's do this.
This is the part where the baby comes.
Yeah, this is a graphic bit, guys.
So she's come back in the room and she goes, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do a few practice pushes.
You really got straight into it, yeah.
And so you start the practice pushes, but they're actually real pushes. So I think it might be this cheeky technique that the midwives use so that you don't flip out about the fact that you're about to start pushing, which is very clever. So we did practice pushes, and then she just kept saying push. So what they do is they guide you. They're looking at the monitor to see when you're contracting, and then they tell you to push during the contractions, and they kind of help you to push at certain intervals. So like I push like 3 to 4 times every kind of contraction, depending on, where she felt I was able to continue pushing or not continue pushing. And the way that they tell you to push is as if you're going to do a poo. So that's how they explain it to you. They say, pretend you're doing a poo, push, push, push. And I know a lot of people...
Let me tell you, if Jad pushes that hard to get a deuce out, oh my God, our toilet is in for something. But you see your partner in this level of pain and how much physical exertion and effort is going into this. And it is far more significant than pushing out a number 2, let me tell you. Like Jad, every single push looked like she was...
Acknowledgement.
No, you look like you were about to pass out. Like it looked...
I felt like I was about to pass out.
Like,
my
crazy.
face was... I could feel it getting red. you hold your breath to push, basically. So I'm holding my breath, pushing as hard as I can, and you're hot. I've got nothing in me. Like, there's nothing in the tank already, you know?
Oh, you made me have the fan on you.
And Locke, he's got this handheld fan, which, bless him, he's only bashed into my forehead 7 times as I'm pushing, because he's obviously distracted. He's like holding one leg in the air. So, by the way, also, I'm pushing on my side. And one thing that I forgot to mention was that whilst the epidural was administered, I had a peanut ball between my legs and I was on my side, and that was to, again, help baby move lower, basically. So anyway, we're back to pushing, and I'm pushing, and the thing is, when you have the epidural, you don't think you're going to feel the pushing, right? I thought I'd just be numb from the legs down, but I could feel it. Like, I was definitely in pain. I was in pain, which I'm actually glad about, and I think partly
they say you need to use the pain to push. Like, you need to, use it as sort of like a form of motivation almost to get this little thing out.
So I was guided by the midwives to not push the epidural button leading up to the time where I'd needed to push. So they said, okay, don't top it up anymore. It's good for you to feel the contractions to some degree as you start pushing. So I'm pushing, and I don't know, it sounded like after almost maybe 15, 20 minutes, like from everyone, what everyone was vocalizing, it sounded like the baby was there, you know?
Yeah, the head was there quite soon. Like, yeah, as you said, maybe 15, 20 minutes.
So
but then it was like 30, 40 minutes of
just
trying to get the head to progress, because he got very, I don't want to say stuck, but
he just wouldn't come out.
Really wouldn't come out for a long, long time, to which the midwives were trying different things, like,
tried new positions,
lubricating up the area, trying different positions.
That was right at the end.
Yeah, but they had to try a few things, because, Jad was pushing with all her might, and, she couldn't have done more.
I couldn't push anymore.
And yet he still wasn't coming. And the midwives are trying to, this is very graphic, but they're trying their utmost to make sure that the woman doesn't tear down there. So as in, like, that's one of their main concerns. They don't want you to tear. So they're trying to take it slow. They don't want you to rush it, and they don't want you to go sort of overboard. So yeah, he just got to this sort of stalemate with his head coming out.
His head was just there, and I felt it as well when he was crowning.
Yeah, that was cute.
It was nice. You put your hand down, there's a head there, and you're like, that's cool. Can you come out though?
They do that for motivation. So Jad's exhausted and going, like, they say you get to this point in your labor, and we did a birthing course, and they said that every woman gets to this stage where, like, you're in the process, you're almost there, like the head's almost out, and not every woman, obviously can't speak for everyone, but a lot of women go, like, I can't do it, like I'm out, like,
they
I can't
call it
do
transition.
Yeah, cut it out, do something, and so Jad sort of said that, and the midwife, they obviously have their.
I didn't say cut it out.
No, I meant, like, as in you were like, I can't do this. Like,
no, I did. Yeah, I remember saying I can't do this, and as the words came out of my mouth, I thought, oh, it's happening.
Yeah.
It's going to come
And so
soon.
the midwife goes, which is very, very clever. She goes, hey, I just want you to reach down and put your hands between your legs, and I just want you to, feel your baby's head. And they do that, and you could literally see, that little spark in Jad's eye when that happens, and, she got quite emotional, and I think that was the perfect motivation to keep going, and you go, oh, it is so close. So a very clever tactic, and it worked a treat.
But basically I pushed for an hour 10.
Yeah, an hour
and his head
9 minutes.
Eventually came out with some assistance, so they ended up having to lube the exit.
Oh yeah, show us the technique with your finger. Beautiful.
Lube up the exit.
Love it. Yeah.
Good thing this isn't recorded, this whole pod.
Yeah. Fucking windscreen wiper.
So eventually head came out, and that was a huge relief, because oh my god, the feeling of the head just sitting in your crotch for like 40 minutes. Not nice. I got to tell you.
I saw that guy's head as well. I'm not sure how it. I don't know how it came out.
It was just chilling for a really long time, and you feel it in between your legs. It's very uncomfortable, very painful. So his head finally came out, and then this moment has to be the most magical. Our midwife said, do you want to help pull him out in your next contraction? He should come out. So I've put my hands down and grabbed his head, and she's gone push, push, and I've pushed as hard as I can. And then she kind of helped, and I pulled him up, and we both brought him up to my chest. And then he was born, and he cried his little cry, and he was nice and pink like they're supposed to be. And it was just, how do you explain it? There's nothing in this world that can prepare you for that moment, and nothing that comes even remotely close to the feeling of bringing that bub out, onto your chest and feeling this child that you grew inside of you for 9.5 months, and Locke had the fan in his hand still. He didn't know what to do with the fan. But yeah, and then we both burst into tears, I think. It was...
Yeah, it's an indescribable moment that, only parents will ever be able to appreciate truly. But what I thought was really interesting about the end of labour as well is that I think Jad was pushing for 1 hour and 10 minutes total to get the little man out. But 1 hour and 9 minutes and 40 seconds was the head. And then literally the next push, the whole body came out. I didn't know it was like that.
Yeah.
It was such an effort and task to get the head out. And then literally 10 seconds later, the whole little man's out. Like when the head came out, I was like, oh, we're still in for, that's 10% of the body.
Yeah.
Like we've still got a little while to go here. And then
one push
20
later.
seconds later, the little man's there. And you're honestly like thinking back right now, you can't put it into words. It's crazy. It's scary. It's all that anticipation and anxiety for the last, as you said, 10 months comes to fruition and it's there and sort of the reality kicks in and it is still a bit of a blur and, there's doctors rushing around and midwives and there's blood and there's a lot of everything. But it's a beautiful moment and one that, we'll cherish forever.
Yeah. And so then I'd had a 2nd degree tear. So that meant that we then needed to wait for the doctor needed to come and sew me up. So then I had to wait for that. But in the interim, I wanted to have what they call golden hour, I think. Yes. And basically that's just bonding time with Bub. So skin on skin. So we had Fletcher on my chest and we were both skin on skin. And then he even started trying to eat. So we put him on the boob.
That's crazy.
So it's just wild that they come out, they want to eat immediately as well. So we had a little mini nursing session, but I think we were maybe, 30 minutes in and I'm now feeling really gross. Like I'm overheating. I'm pumped with God knows how many different kinds of drugs and anti-nausea medications and drips and I haven't eaten or drank any water and I'm just feeling so gross that I get to the point where I actually physically can't have Fletcher on me anymore. And I'm like, Locke, you're going to have some bonding time. I need to go have a shower or something because I just feel so sick. So at this point, the epidural had worn off enough for me to kind of walk to the bathroom with assistance. And I did. And I went and had a little shower. And then we were shown to eventually, you kind of wait around for a bit and, I got back in the bed and then I had to be sewn up and that took 45 minutes whilst Locke did all the measurements of Barb and
measure and weigh and,
make
check
sure
10
they're
fingers, 10 toes.
all
and
good and
they'd
healthy.
actually do a few interesting checks, like they check, hearing and their eyes. But then they did this weird one, which I didn't know about, called the reflex test.
The startle
reflex.
reflex.
The startle reflex test, where they literally hold your baby and then they drop him, but obviously they catch him or her, and they catch them, and they literally want to see your baby like that,
Freak
like a startle
out.
reflex. And I'm like, that is so crazy that's something that
So
you
they
test
fake
for,
drop the baby.
like 10 minutes after like an hour after he's born, which
Yeah.
is, and as a new parent, you're like, oh, don't drop him.
Yeah.
But it's all good. They obviously do it 100 times a day.
Yeah, and then we were shown to our room and then your parents.
Yeah.
And then you're just parents.
And we actually weren't allowed to leave the hospital for minimum 24 hours. So because Jad's water broke and then Bub actually didn't come out for about 36, 40 hours, you actually, baby and Jad are more prone to infection and a few things going wrong. So they just want to keep you under close watch for the next 24 hours.
For
so
fevers
we couldn't go home
and
if we wanted to, but it was a nice, first night because, you go into this little room and nurses and midwives come and still check on you every, couple of hours over the evening, which is great because you're so zooted, you're so zonked, you kind of, the drugs are wearing off and you have a lot of questions and you ask a lot of things and they're there to help you and they come in and help you breastfeed and show you how to wrap the baby and all these little things that, you don't really think of that you would have to do at home if you were by yourself. So it was a nice first night of having a little bit of assistance with Fletch and learning a couple of cute things that we took home. And then
my mum and sister came and dropped off Frangos so we had something to eat. That
cheeky
was
plug.
the first bite of food that I had in I don't even know how long. But yeah, then
Yeah.
you just you're left there with your baby to kind of sort it out, and you have the help from the midwives, which is amazing, especially with feeding. If you're trying to breastfeed, that's more so what you're getting a lot of help with, because the baby doesn't really do anything but lay there for the first day. So yeah, I think. And
That's
then
it, guys,
the only thing I will add that was a complication that came later on was at 4 weeks postpartum, I actually passed quite a large clot. So I had continued bleeding from labour up until 4 weeks postpartum, which it's weird. To some degree it's normal, but it can also mean other things. So if you're in that situation and you kind of feel like something might be wrong, go get it checked out. But I did pass quite a large clot. I called my midwife and they said go to emergency. So Locke and I had to pack up and head to the emergency department at 9 a.m. when I was 4 weeks to the day. So happy 1 month to us. We're in emergency again. And I ended up having an infection. So they administered antibiotics for that. We were in the hospital all day. I had an ultrasound, but the antibiotics cleared it up. I just went and had my checkup 2 days ago and everything's all fine now. But yeah, there are so many things that I didn't realize you need to kind of have a watchful eye on postpartum. Just so many additional things that could happen. So yeah, but aside from that, the labor went, I tell people I'm really happy with how it went. It didn't go to plan. No, I didn't breathe through my labor, but I'm really happy with the outcome and the experience that I had, despite all of the throwing up. It was an extraordinary experience, and not ready to do it again just yet, but I'm sure in time when it comes around again, I'm excited for it to some degree, and yeah, it was phenomenal.
Straight to the epidural next time.
So absolutely, fast forwarding to the epidural.
One thing I did want to just add, being a part of this whole experience, and I know, from everything I've read and heard and spoken to people being a part of this from the male side, they've said that they often feel quite useless in labour because there's nothing you can do. You're sitting there and you're watching your partner in the most excruciating pain they've ever been in, and they're going through this thing, and there's nothing you can do to help. You can hold their hand, you can give them a sip of water, but there's nothing you can do to get them out of this pain. And you honestly see your partner in like a different light. Like I saw Jad, I see her as like a delicate woman at home, but seeing her in that environment, in that moment, and what she was putting herself through for our family, she was like a warrior. And yeah, you fall in love with your partner all over again, watching them do this thing and dedicate and sacrifice their body for your family to make it grow. And so witnessing that and being a part of it, it just made me fall in love with her all over again. And it was incredibly special. And yeah, I see her as, this absolute warrior now, which I didn't see her as before, if I'm being honest. She's amazing and she's so strong, but it's just, it paints her in a different light. And it's indescribable, but yeah. I owe her a lot, and yeah, I'm very grateful for what she did for our family.
I love you. Thanks, honey.
Love you more. All right, guys, you've heard the birth story, but we cannot finish a Mad About You episode without hitting our favorite Ask Mum and Dad segment. And so this week we do have one.
This is the first Mum and Dad segment where we're actually mum and dad.
Yeah. Does that mean our advice is more valid now?
Yes, 100%.
Because I think you're actually a little bit more unhinged now that you're a real parent.
We've just gone up 20 aura points.
Okay, I don't even know what that means. But guys, I got this DM from someone. So, and it says, "Hey mum, dad, I'm currently seeing my ex." Good start. "We dated for 3.5 years and then I broke up with him and now we're trying again. It's been 4 months and he still hasn't made me his girlfriend. He tells me that he doesn't want to rush into a decision because once he says yes, that's it. We're going to get married, and he's scared of letting my family and his family down if we get back together and things don't work out. I've given him until the end of September to make a decision, so that will be 6 months of us trying again. Do you think it's bad that I gave him a deadline? I told him I don't want him to feel pressured by it, but I don't think that I can wait around until the end of the year because I don't think that's fair on me. What do I do?
I think bring the deadline up. September's too long.
I don't really understand. If they've been, like it says they've been seeing each other for 4 months, so aren't they just back together? Like,
well, yeah, but it sounds like this guy's got 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
But it doesn't make sense because it says when we do this, we're going to get married. So if you're already under that assumption and you know you're going to marry this person, why wouldn't you get stuck in?
That's what I mean. I don't think he does know that. I think he's manipulating her.
Okay.
To believe that that's the potential outcome if he decides he wants to commit to her. He's not committed to her at all right now.
Are you speaking from experience here?
No. What?
Oh. Well, you just went straight to he's manipulating her. What if he's just genuine and he wants to marry her?
Why would you put someone on hold? What do you mean? If you want to marry them,
could be.
You actually did
lad's
that.
Trip
if I'm
to
being
Thailand
honest,
or something.
You did this. Do you remember?
Not really.
Yeah, you did. You said
Can we
I
help
want
this lady first?
You said I want to be with you, but not yet. Hee hee.
Yeah,
However,
we are married now, so this guy could be legit.
Shit.
Holy moly, I've got to change my whole perspective on this question. No, look, if I'm being honest, if you've been dating for 4 months and he hasn't made you his missus, I can only assume what is going on is you guys are sleeping together and probably going on dates and stuff, but you haven't, given each other the title of girlfriend and boyfriend, which I think is probably a bit of a cop-out on his end, especially if it's something that you've wanted and you've dated before. Yeah. And he's said that he wants to marry you when you guys, make it official again. So
stop giving him the cookie.
I think that's okay. All right, the cookie, guys.
Take the cookie
But
away.
I think if you have someone say, I literally want to marry you, I know I want to marry you, then I would just say, okay, well, let's start things now. Because I think when you do find your person and you do marry them, something that I thought is like, what a waste of time it was dating any other people. You know what I mean? Like, as in, I wish we did this. I wish we were 10 years into this, relationship and marriage, not 7, you know what I mean? Because it would have been so much better and we would have been that many steps ahead in our life and where we want to be and, our own growth and relationship. So I think if he's saying that to you, I would, yeah, as Jad said, put the hammer down and go, look, we're either together or we're not. Like, I'm not going to wait around.
Don't wait around. Don't wait. We've spoken about waiting before. Waiting's not going to help anyone in this scenario. You kind of need to go your separate ways and hopefully you'll come back together if the timing's right and not wait for them, and kind of hold yourself off from potentially meeting the right person who's not going to make you feel like you're kind of begging for someone's time and attention, because that's how these situations feel when someone says, I'm not really ready, but I like you, but I don't know what I want.
I also think it's a bit of a cop-out when he said he's scared of letting your family and his family down, that if you get back together and don't work out. Trust me, when I was dating a chick in the past and I broke up with her, my family didn't give 2 rats asses.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it. Unless they're like head over heels in love with you and they think you're the bee's knees, which doesn't sound like you are if you're leading on their daughter. I don't think they're going to be too upset if he goes missing. So
I think, ladies, you need to remember, if he wanted to, he would. I know we throw that out there, but it's so true, and it's the most honest and basic piece of advice that you can take with you. If a guy wanted to make an effort for you, he would. If he wanted to wife you up, he would. If he wanted to make you his girlfriend, he would.
He does. He just wants to do it soon.
So
Ish.
If that's not happening and you're not getting what you feel you deserve and you want out of the relationship, walk away. Stop wasting your own time. Who cares if you're wasting his time? Don't waste your own time. Find better.
Wow.
I'm sick of it.
Love it.
I'm sick of it. We're putting our feet down.
Yeah, I think Jad and I just both have the idea that if you have to convince someone to be with you, like, it's not going to work. You know what I mean? They either want to be with you or they don't, and things aren't going to feel too real if you have to sort of convince them. So yeah, say your piece and say, look, I'd really like an answer from you. I want to be with you, and if you don't want to be with me, then we're going to part ways. But yeah, stop waiting for this guy and
to quote one of my favourite philosophers, Craig David, I'm walking away from the troubles in my life. I'm walking away
I'm actually going to end the podcast there because I need to have a serious chat to Jad about what she just did, guys. So thank you for tuning in again to our first episode back in the studio, mad about you as parents. And remember, if you did have a crazy dating story or any questions you wanted us to address on the pod, you can do that by emailing us at madaboutyou@novapodcast.com.au. But we need to get home to not sleep, so we will hopefully be back next week to film and record another ep for you guys and fill you in a little bit more about our life as parents.
It's great to be back, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you very shortly.
And guys, leave reviews.
Leave a review.
Well, I don't know why you're not doing it. All these shadow
Yeah, we want
listeners,
more.
just click 5 stars and move on.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.